these days people want to attribute everything that their body is telling them something, when actually it's their mind. My body's telling me I shouldn't eat lunch because I don't feel hungry. And so we know that wait a minute, well, why are you not hungry? What happened with breakfast, right? We have a whole series of questions that we would ask. How did you get to this point? Ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And what's most important to you? Fasting erratically, we'll say, then we lose this natural sense of the fast. The thing that's interesting with fasting is that as there is more rajas and tamas in society, then people look for more extremes, restraining oneself from food and or drink. And the thing is that if you look at how we're designed to have this human body experience, then, and if you think about the Prakriti, the Constitution, the extremes probably aren't a great idea, if you just look at it from that general point of view. And so for this conversation, then, let's say that fasting is going to be skipping at least one meal, and usually more. You could say while still having water, but there are some fasts that people do these days that don't have water either. We look at, when we look at what are we doing in life, we're moving prana, right? We want to connect with nature, and we want to live connected with our nature. There are among yogis and among the people in Ayurveda too, there is this fast. It's a natural fast, right? And so that natural fast is that I go to bed at night and then I get up the next morning. It was interesting when I was looking at the definition online of fasting, it called it the physiological fast. And so there are, some other reasons that people fast. So this upavasya, it's our natural sense of knowing when to eat, knowing how much to eat. And this is something people talk about a lot these days, right? So I just eat when I feel hungry. Well, many of you may know that we'll get hungry for all kinds of reasons at all kinds of different times. I actually just had a client this morning write and say, I don't know what's happening. I'm waking up at 3 a.m. and I'm starving, but she's also not hungry for dinner. We can guess some of the problems that are going on there. Yeah. But there's all kinds of reasons that affect that. When someone is reasonably stable, then meaning they're not underweight, and they're not having any kind of eating disorders going on, then using the first burp as a way to discover what that natural fast is for you can be very helpful. Yeah. Now, we all know, perhaps most of you know, that the burp can be affected by many different things, and particularly our emotion. And so it's something that you want to be careful with. Don't be rigid about it. It's not one size fits all, because especially these days with so many people having some disordered eating patterns. A couple of things, though, that have become very popular now is for people to talk about, my body is telling me. My body's telling me, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you have a big symptom that's happening, your body is trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you, let's say if you're constipated, something's not going well, right? We know that something led up to that. But sometimes these days people want to attribute everything that their body is telling them something, when actually it's their mind. My body's telling me I shouldn't eat lunch because I don't feel hungry. And so we know that wait a minute, well, why are you not hungry? What happened with breakfast, right? We have a whole series of questions that we would ask. How did you get to this point? Right? And then we sort it out. Is it the body or is it really the mind? Because let's say, for example, my pants feel too tight And so therefore, I'm not going to be hungry at lunch. Any of you ever had that kind of feeling? Or something, something else where I'm some place where I'm dissatisfied with what's happening with me. And so then I'm going to go back to, how can I change that? In Ayurveda, you've heard us talk about that. We recommend 3 meals in the day, a good 4 to 6 hours in between. That's something that you want to consider. Why are we doing that, right? Well, we do that in order to give Agni an opportunity to do its job fully, right? So that we're not accumulating or metabolic toxins by undigested food being in the digestive tract too long. One of the things that happens is that when we snack or we're kind of fasting erratically, we'll say, then we lose this natural sense of the fast. So we're not as likely to be able to wake up in the morning, do our practices, do our sadhana, and then have a natural feeling of hunger, and go through the day and be able to experience that. We talk about many things that take us away from our natural rhythm, our rhythm that is in alignment with nature. And so this is one of the things that does that. And when we have that disconnection going on, this is when those disordered patterns based on samskara, meaning based on impressions from the past and emotions that we haven't processed. And so then they start taking over. So we have that natural desire actually for a fast, and that brings up the natural desire for hunger. I could tell you so many stories about myself before I came to Ayurveda. Ooh-wee. I was trying all this. It depends on who you are and how you're living, right? Okay, if we were living off the land, our daily rhythm was in alignment with nature more than it is. We were living with plants and animals, then we could probably eat twice a day. And there are some people who do that. I did that for a long time, actually. I had a lot of trouble keeping my Agni working. Now, at the time I was doing that, I didn't know what Agni was. But now looking back at it, it was a constant struggle to feel like I had digested my food. As a matter of fact, rarely did I actually feel that way, because I would get so hungry that I would overeat at the meal. No snacking, but definite overeating. It depends on the results that you want. So why do I want to do that? Some people these days, they want to do it because they don't want to go to the trouble of having to cook or prepare a meal for themselves. But as I just said, it really depends on the strength of Agni, the availability of food, and the emotional congestion, I'd say. One of the things that we all recognize, I believe, if you're familiar with Vata dosha at all, and that is that the consistency is going to bring a greater benefit to us. And that's going to keep the Agni strong. I think many of you have probably experienced that. You've been able to keep Agni strong with the regularity. Now, this will vary a little bit according to the constitution. Some people can get away with things, and depending on our age, sometimes it's easier to get away with things when we're younger than when we're older. I've had people say to me, oh, well, hundreds of years ago, people only ate twice a day. They didn't eat 3 times a day. So we're not the same as the yogis who are living in the cave. We're talking all the time, traveling, huge. And then eating out. So then we end up eating poorly. And the sleep, how often is your sleep disturbed? And then we have electronics, of course. And so all of this is bringing more rajas and tamas. And our Agnis are perhaps not as strong as they used to be for a whole bunch of reasons. But we do a lot of talking, and we do a lot of things that use our energy. And so that's one of the reasons that the 3 meals seems to work pretty well with where we are as human beings these days.